Well, here we are back again with Sam Leonard Baker, and he is by all means my favorite World War II veteran that I have worked with, and I've been working with veterans for many, many years now. So it's been a privilege to get to know Sam, and if you haven't watched our previous videos, go ahead and do that so you can hear about the beginning of Sam's life. He has brought us so far up to when he started to go to college. So tell me about that, Sam. Your family was struggling. They were struggling to make ends meet. How were you able to go to college? What a remarkable thing. And I know you were doing the paper route, but that doesn't pay for college. So tell us about that and how college went and why you even went there at all.
Well, I always thought I wanted to build bridges. One of the fathers of a scout in our troop was an engineer on the levee board. Uh, in 1927, the levee near our hometown, the levee on the Mississippi River, broke, and the water came almost up to the town. We only had about a half a foot within it would have flooded the town. Because, Linda, where I lived, I'll tell you how flat it is. You can drive from Clarksdale towards Memphis 21 miles without a foot difference in elevation.
Wow.
Uh, the road is 21 miles straight as an arrow. And I remember as a kid, Bobby Friedman's father bought a Chrysler Airflow, and Bobby was only about 14 or 15, and we took it out there, and he got it up to 90 miles an hour, and he said, "Shall I go any further?" And I said, "No, that's enough." He said, "I still got pedal to go."
Wow.
we
Goodness.
all drove. We all drove and had no licenses. Well, my mother insisted that I go to college. I had no jacket. My older sister made me a wool, uh, like a top coat, not a short, but waist size. Uh, and my father took me and my roommate, who was a year older. He said, "If you're going to school, we'll bump together. I'll stay in the freshman dorm another year." We went there, and I registered, and they told me it was $140. I said, "I only got 90 uh, that I can pay. I needed something for books and a little to eat on." I bought a meal ticket for $20, which lasted me a whole month. They
Wow.
said, "Do you need a job?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, you can work down at the stadium doing whatever the coaches need you to do." So once I got settled in my room, I went down to the stadium and met Sarge, who was a World War One sergeant major in the army, and he was in charge of the stadium. That's made sure that the uniforms were clean and that they were ready, and the ankle wraps were rolled. And they said, "You okay? You roll up wraps. You pass out candy after the practice. You go to when everything was done. I'd go down on the field and ask the coach anything I could do to help him." Uh, uh, when when the first day that we got available, my roommate, who's a upperclassman, said, "Sammy, put on your jacket." It was 95 degrees. I said, "Why?" He said, "Put on your jacket. We're going to the cafeteria." So we went to the cafeteria and we picked up a plate. He said, two plates. He said, "Put it under your jacket." Two saucers, put it under your jacket. Two cups, put it under your jacket. They says, "Now take it to the room and empty it out. Then we'll eat." Uh,
Oh,
we bought
goodness.
we bought a hot plate. The the fellows across the hall from us were taking ag courses, and they had to cut up chickens, and they would bring them home Friday, and we would cook them on a hot plate. And they were very good. Anything to save a few pennies. Um, the courses went well. I love mechanical drawing, and I devoted too much time to it at the expense of others. Towards the end of our freshman year, in the spring of 41, I heard about the job being offered in my county of checking cotton acreage. So the next time I hitchhiked home, we didn't have money to pay. I went by to see the uh, county agent, Mr. Barnes, and I asked him if I could get a job checking cotton. He said, "Sammy, I've got so many of them now that have already signed up. Probably won't have a place for you." So I asked him if I could take the exam just in case somebody failed, and he said, "Sure." So I went back and told Maurice, my roommate, and I taught him how to do what was required. We took the exams. I scored number one. He scored number two. Many of them didn't pass, so we were offered a job. You needed a car. They paid $5 a day. $5 a day. That was $30 a week, 6 days a week. So my dad bought a used Ford, 1934 Ford, from a friend of his at the Ford agency, and I had a car.
Wow.
Gas was 12 cents a gallon. My lunch was a can of sardines, which was a nickel, and a box of crackers, and a Coca-Cola if I could find it. If I didn't,
Wow.
I'd drink well water. Uh, every now and then, the farmer would ask me to have lunch with him, which was great. I remember distinctly the grandson of a former governor of Mississippi invited me. Says my wife said that you're to join us for lunch, and we went there. I washed up, and they had lunch on the patio, and then she took me to the house, just antiques. It was such a beautiful thing, and he was a progressive farmer. He said, "Someday I'm going to plant all wheat. I'll plant it in the fall. I'll come back in the spring and harvest it, and I won't be bothered with anything." Uh, I had an experience which taught me a lot of lessons. As life teaches us lessons. Um, when we measured the cotton on a man's farm, we didn't determine how much acreage it was. That was a job that was done back in the office. Well, one of the biggest farmers in the county had an overage of about 3 acres. So I was assigned to go to his place and measure it out and see that he plowed it up. At the same time, that morning, I'd gone to a black farmer who had cotton about up to your your belt, beautiful, and he had to plow up about a half an acre. I hated to do it. He didn't have much cotton to begin with, and he had to plow up a half an acre. Then I went to this big farmer, and I picked out cotton near wooded areas that was only about a foot tall, wasn't going to do much anyway. And we blocked out 3 acres of very poor growth cotton. And he said, "Okay, come back Wednesday, it'll be done." Well, Wednesday I came back and he hadn't even done anything. And he said, "Oh, Sammy, why do I have to ply it up? It's not going to make any cotton anyway." And I said, "This is the rule. You've got to ply it up or else I have to turn it in." He said, "Okay, come back Friday." And so I came back Friday, it wasn't done. So that weekend, I asked my dad, I said, "Dad, what did I do?" I mean, he's probably one of the most influential farmers in the in the whole county. And if I throw him out, I mean, will that affect you because you have dealings with him? Uh, and what will that do with the county agent? And my father maybe learned a lesson. And he said, Sammy, that's your problem. That's your decision. You have to decide. You have to decide what you're going to do. Well, I labored over it Saturday and Sunday. Monday, I went in and I told the county agent, and then I got a lecture from him. You realize what this is going to do? This is going to cost him about $12,000 if you throw him out of the program. And I said, what else do I have to do? I can't go there but three times. Three times he didn't do it, so I have to throw him out. Well, he called the farmer up, and the farmer came to the county agent's office the first time in many years, and he said, "Send him back. I'll have it done by tomorrow." Well, I couldn't go back because I had filed a complaint, but it taught me that you have to be honest and and with your decisions. If you are, you can live with your decisions,
Oh,
regardless of how it turns out.
oh,
When
great
I
lesson.
uh, when I went back to school that fall, uh, then the December the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and I remember none of us in the dormitory knew where Pearl Harbor was. Uh, we had to look up on the map.
Wow.
Uh, and so a friend of mine in the engineering class, brother came through as a captain in the Marine Corps, recruiting the football players for the Marine Corps. So I looked him up and I said, Captain, can I apply? He said, sure. It's not just for the Marine, just for the football players. We like them because they're big. I was a little guy. I was about 5'10", weighed about 140 pounds. Um, so I got the application form, went home, got my uh, letters of recommendation, got my school records. I had to have a birth certificate, so I went down, hitchhiked down to Jackson on a Wednesday, got to the vital statistics office just as they closed. So I came back at 1 o'clock, and the man looked and looked and looked. He couldn't find it. He said, "Son, did your parents ever talk to you about something?" I said, "What?" He said, "About being adopted." I said, "Oh no, I know I'm not adopted. I was born in the hospital." So he showed me the book, and that was Leonard Samuel Baker, August the 16th. That was the same day Charles Levine was born. So I had no choice. I paid $1, got a photocopy of it, and I took it to the Marine Corps. And the sergeant said to me, "Son, you want to join the Marine Corps and you don't know your own name."
Oh, that's funny.
So he said to the doctor, "Well, let's see if he passes. If he does, uh, you got to go home and get all these records changed." So it was about 5 o'clock when the doctor said, "Yes, he passes." So he says, "How you going to get home?" I said, "I don't have the money for the bus. I'll have you hitchhike." And I guess his fatherly instincts came on, and he said, "No, you're not going to get out on the highway at night. I'll give you a chit for a hotel room and two chits for dinner tonight and breakfast tomorrow. You hitchhike back Thursday morning." So I did, and got my 2 letters of recommendation, and I got the principal to say Samuel Baker and Leonard Samuel Baker, one and the same, and hitchhiked back down Saturday morning, and they swore me in, and uh, I went back to school, and they waited until I graduated in August of '43, and then they sent me papers. Now, I had never been any more than 150 miles away from my hometown when I was 21. We didn't have a
Wow.
car, we didn't have any place to go, and we didn't have the money. So I boarded a train in my hometown to Memphis, caught the train to Atlanta, And Atlanta got there too late to catch the train to Yamasee, where the Paris Island, the boot camp is. So the sergeant in the terminal said, "Here's a hotel chit. Here's two meal chits all over again." And I went to the hotel, and it looked like it was built when Gone with the Wind was happening. It was such an old place. And I met a number of football players from the University of San Francisco who were going to boot camp. And the next morning, we got down to the train station, got on the train, and they took us to Yamasee. And we pulled in the station, and two Marine sergeants got on. It must have been about 6'6", weighed about 240, had their shirts tucked, tailored so that they fit real tight. And they hollered attention. We all jumped up out of a seat, stood at attention. They said, this train is a mess. Clean it up. So we threw everything out, everything out the window. And he says, after that, he said, "I'll take all the alcohol." And he said, "We threw it out the window."
Oh.
Well, I didn't have any, but some of them did.
Oh gosh.
So they marched us down to the barge, and we took the barge across to Paris Island. Uh, that was the way they got over there, so that if you wanted to desert, you had to swim across the waterway to get back. And there were a number of drownings, kids that couldn't take it.
Oh wow. Wow.
And they led us into a building, and we were instructed to bring a small suitcase with us. They gave us a nameplate. We put on there where it was to be shipped. They took off all your clothes, except everything except your toilet articles and your stationery and your watch and your wallet. Put it in the suitcase, sealed it up, gave it to them. They marched us into a shower. They took a shower. We got ready to get out. The sergeant said, "Go back, shower again." We got through. We came out to a room where they had all the clothing, and they said, "You're clean when you came in the Marine Corps, and I'll stay that way." And they gave us undershirts and under trousers. They gave us two suits of dungarees and shoes and socks and a cap and a duffel bag to put everything in. We assembled and we marched us to a barracks, and they assigned us bunks. And they gave us our first order. And we had to yell out, "Yes, sir." Uh, that night, we didn't know it, but our sergeant major's wife was having a baby, the first after 8 years of marriage, and he could have cared less about us. He wanted to get home as soon as he could. And we were left with Corporal Schultz. And after we had dinner that night at the mess hall, he said, "Attention." We all jumped out of our bunks and whatever and stood up. And he said, "Line up." And we were seated we had bunks in alphabetical order. So we all got in line. And he said, "You come into my office one at a time." So we came in. We said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Baker, do you smoke?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "There's a smoker Friday night. You'll get 2 packs of cigarettes. You'll bring them back, and you'll give it to me." He had a pile of cigarettes. He could never have smoked them. Anyway, uh, it was quite an experience. We had twins from Holy Cross in Boston, Mass, whose father owned a paving company. Uh, they were nice guys, but they should have never been in the Marine Corps, and they didn't pass. They finished boot camp, but they never got through OCS. And later learned that both of them joined the priesthood, and I'm sure they made great peace. And they would be very funny priests. They had a great sense of humor.
Great.
Um, uh, One incident in the mess hall, we got along well, except that I remember his name was Gunch, and we got a little thing of milk oh, uh, about 4 to 6 ounces, and it wasn't enough to cover your cereal. And so the private coming around, yeah, passing out milk, he gave him one, and Gunch said, "I want another one." And the private said, "I'm only supposed to give one, sir." He says, "See, we were all PFCs." He says, "You see that? I'll rank you. Give me another one." And the kid didn't know what to do, so he gave him one. When he reported it to the mess sergeant, who came over and he said, "Okay, who's the Weisenheimer?" And Gunn stood up and said, "I am sorry." He said, "It's not enough milk to cover the cereal." He said, "That's all we get." Well, the commotion triggered our best sergeant. He came over and said, "What's the problem?" And he explained it. And he says, "Okay, we'll clean up the mess hall Friday night for Saturday inspection." So sure enough, after we ate, we all marched back to the mess hall. Gunch had a brick and a box of salt to clean the range off. And the next day, the mess sergeant asked our sergeant, "Do you want to do it again?" And he said, the mess sergeant says, "Oh, heck no, these guys ate me out of house and home. We ate apples. We had never had an apple. He had apples galore in the refrigerator, and oranges and all this stuff
Wow.
that we had never gotten." Then we finished boot camp. Uh, we went to the rifle range, and I was pretty good shot, but somehow I shot the wrong target, and I got a Maggie's drawers, a red cloth they waved in the pits, and I got a boot in my rear end. My sergeant, because they had bet other people about who was going to win the shooting. So I had told Beatty next door to me, I said, "Give me your next shot. I already got one in yours." So he did it. So I got a good score.
Wow.
Uh,
You, you've got,
I trained from
go ahead.
Yamasee to Washington to go to OCS school. Had a cold stove in it. There was no radiators. It was a cold stove. We spent this was in November, a very cold night getting there. We got to Quantico. It was a different environment. We were in a nice barracks. Uh, we went to the mess hall, and they taught us how to eat properly. I remember the matron d from the Waldorf Astoria came and lectured to us about how the silverware was placed, and how you to hold your hands, and and how you cut your food, and how you're dressed. And he showed us how you pull the table out when you have a lady guest. And it was a whole day of etiquette. Just our one group of
Wow.
about uh, and I thought that was great. And then the next day he lectured to us about how they choose the products that they serve. And he said, when you buy a can of tomatoes, we drain the juice off because we serve that as juice. So you have to figure that in the cost of your tomatoes. It was a very good 2-day lecture. I thoroughly enjoyed.
Well, it
Um,
sure sounds like you had a great experience all the way through college into you made it through boot camp, and now you're about to head into your training in the Marine Corps. So our next talk that we're going to have will be about, that whole section of what was it like getting trained? What did you get trained in? So I hope that our listeners are enjoying this story about your life. I know that the sound is not necessarily matching because of the internet, but during this pandemic, I did not want to miss the opportunity to interview you, Sam. who knows what's going to happen with COVID? And so many people have asked about your life, and I really do appreciate the audio will be fine, so people can always plug it in and listen to it on their way to work, but hear a remarkable story and all the things that you've done. So next time we're going to pick up at where we left off here, of you going on to learning more in the military. And do you have any final thoughts, Sam, that you want to leave?
No, Linda, it's looking back over all the years. There's so many things that I've done. The government gave me a wonderful life, uh, and I was just lucky. I met the girl of my life, and late but I was 33, she was 30, but we managed 54 years together.
Wow.
So I've been a lucky guy. I really have.
And I know your kids adore you and are very supportive. So we'll eventually get to that point too, about your children, and how it was Sally really who helped to inspire and support you in publishing these 2 books. So I'm real excited, Sam. I know we're going to have get the word out about your books, and people can find them on your website, sambakerbooks.com. Your books are available there if people want to go there, and there are some on Amazon as well. But if they want to order them, they can do that on your website. So thank you, Sam. I'll be looking forward to speaking with you again. And God bless you for everything you've done. Thank you for your service, Sam.
Thank you, and thank you very much.
You're
Bye
welcome.
bye.